welcome back, guys, and as you can see, we have yet our first problem with the 2011 Ford Explorer. We've got a check engine light on, and we're going to go ahead and use our scan tool here to check it. So let's go ahead and turn it off. Let's go ahead and plug it in. And as with most scan tools, you just turn the key onto the run position. Cylinder 6 misfire. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it needs spark plugs. It has 118,000 miles on it, so probably time for spark plugs. So let's go ahead and go get us some spark plugs. Alrighty, guys, we're back after a quick run to the parts store. We had to pick up a few more tools. We had to get the spark plugs to get this job done. So while we're doing this, also, we went ahead and picked up a new air filter because we're going to be taking the air box off anyway, so might as well replace it while we're doing that. The only things you're going to need for this job is an 8 and a 10 millimeter socket, which I had to buy a new set because I can't find my smaller sockets, so I just went ahead and bought a new set. So you need an 8 and 10, a good pair of pliers, needle nose or regular, it doesn't matter, flathead, Phillips, obviously your spark plugs, the socket wrench. Also, something else good to have would be a pick tool set. So one of these picks here to be able to get the hoses off that we have to take off. And then, of course, your spark plug sockets. That's all you're going to need. So once you have all that, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take this air box out. So we need to go ahead and unplug the mass airflow sensor, which is right here, and there's just a little button on the underside that can be kind of tricky to push. You just kind of got to give it a nice little wiggle here. It's easier to do with two hands. We need to disconnect this. We'll go ahead and use the flathead to take this hose clamp off and get that out of the way. So let's go ahead and do that. And on this mass airflow sensor connector, there's actually a red tab you have to pull out first. It's a locking mechanism, and then you can go ahead and push the button to unplug it and just kind of set that out of the way. Another good thing to do would be to disconnect the negative terminal on your battery. We'll go ahead and do that as well. So we'll disconnect that, and then we just got to take flathead and get this hose off. And then once you've got that disconnected there, there's going to be two tabs down here on the bottom. We'll go ahead and remove those so we can get this portion out. Alrighty, guys, so we got the air box off, and unfortunately I think we have another problem that we're going to have to take care of today. So if you look down in this air box, we've got oil down in the air box, and it's going down into the air filter, and I noticed it here. We have it around this part as well. So that's telling me it's the PCV valve. It could be a number of things, but we're going to try the PCV valve first. So we're going to go get that, and then we're going to go ahead and start doing this. Alrighty, so we went ahead and took the hose clamp off of the throttle body. We got that pulled off. We went ahead and removed the entire air box, which was just held on by two bolts right here, 8 millimeter, and we set it off to the side because that thing's filthy in there, so we're going to clean it out before we put it back together, but we'll do that last. But now what you're going to want to do is we're going to want to take off the throttle body. You've got the 4 bolts, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. They're 8 millimeter, and then you've got your connector right here with the same red plug you'll pull up on to remove that. And of course you have this connector here by the green tabs. You would just push down on those and they'll pull right off. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Alrighty, so we went ahead and got the throttle body off here, which, like I said, was held on by those 3 bolts. We disconnected these connectors. Now the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to take this hose off right back here. We'll just use a pair of pliers, pull that clamp back, and then we'll take our pick tool to get in there to kind of work that hose loose, and we'll get that off there. And then we should be able to start taking this intake off. All right, so we got that hose off back there. And the last thing to do, this is a coolant bypass hose, runs over here. If you don't want to mess with bleeding the system and all that after doing this, like myself, I'm just going to take this out of the bracket holes there, pull it out of the way, so that way we can get to the intake bolts and pull that right off there. There's 7 of them, I believe. There's one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. And then there's one right back there. So there should be a total of 7 of them, and we'll go ahead and pull the intake off. Alrighty guys, so once you get the intake out of the way, there was an extra bolt that was attached to this little bracket right here down on the bottom. But once you get that out of the way, make sure you cover up your intake ports there. You don't want anything to drop down in there that could potentially damage the engine. So once we got that off, now we have full access to the 3 spark plugs up front and the 3 in the back. And all you have to do is there's these 8mm bolts that are holding the coils in. Same with the tabs here. You got that red lock you pull up on, and then you pull that off. Then you can pull your coil out. It's a 5/8 spark plug socket. Get down in there and get your spark plugs out. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And then once you pull that 8mm bolt out, you can see right down in there is the spark plug. And like I said, it's a 5/8 spark plug socket. Got the little rubber boot down in there. Now, the gap on these spark plugs is supposed to be 51. So you'll see right there. You'll want to make sure you check the gap on your new spark plugs. And also, just to give you an idea as well, check the gap on the old ones when you pull them out too, just to kind of see where you're at. As far as your gap, but always make sure you check the new ones, because they say they come pre-gapped, but a lot of times they're off. So make sure you check. It's supposed to be 51. Alrighty guys, so we already got the new spark plug in. We cleaned up the coil and put the coil back in. We went ahead and hooked the connector up so we wouldn't forget. So do you remember how I told you to go ahead and check the gap on your old spark plug? Well, here's the old spark plug, and you can see it's pretty well worn out. And this is a motor craft, so these are probably, judging by the look of it, the original plugs. Now I'm going to try to do this one-handed. I don't know how well it's going to work, so let's see if we can do this. I'm going to show you the gap on this thing. And you remember I said it's supposed to be 51. Well, if you can see, it's at almost 70. We can get the camera to focus there. You get the idea. It's almost at 70, so that tells me this plug is pretty well worn out, and it's probably a good thing that we're changing these, because like I said, these are probably the original plugs. We've already got the bolt out there, so we'll go ahead and do the rest of these 3. We'll move to the back, and then we got the PVC valve here. We'll go ahead and replace it too. Alrighty guys, we are back. We had to take a decent drive to get this assembly here. So we replaced the PCV valve, like you guys know, but this part was cracked, so I had to drive to a Ford dealer to get it. And here's the old PCV valve, and that part we had to actually heat it up and use a clamp to slip it over, because it does slip over there pretty tight. So nonetheless, we are now done with everything. All the plugs are done. We tightened everything up. Everything's plugged back in. Now all we have to do is take the rags out. We can put the intake back on, and we can start putting everything back together. Alrighty guys, she is back together. We kind of cleaned it up a little bit, but not too much. Here is the old PVC tubing, and you can see that crack right there. That definitely would have started leaking later down the road if we didn't address it. Wow, it's been a long day. So there you guys have it. As you see, this process isn't too hard. It's just kind of time consuming with the layout, with the 3 in the front and the 3 in the back. You kind of have to take all that stuff apart. But now is the moment of truth. I'm pretty sure we've got everything hooked back up the way it should be. We're going to go start it up and see what it does. So let's go ahead and try it out. truth. Okay, no warning lights, just the check engine light, which we'll clear that here in just a second. But I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything that shouldn't be. Everything seems to be the way it should be, so let's go for a quick little drive. All right, so we went ahead and cleared the check engine light. Now, just to let you guys know, I wasn't able to get it on film, but what happened was I went to hit the accelerator and this thing kind of just fell on its face, and that check engine light started flashing. It came on, and then it was cylinder 6 misfire. So that's what sparked the interest of doing the spark plugs, and they were pretty well worn out. I mean, the gap was huge compared to what they were supposed to be. And then, of course, we found the oil in the intake, or in the air box, so we went ahead and replaced the PCV valve while we was at it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take this thing on its maiden voyage since all the work, and we'll see how she does. Now, if you guys are hearing that thumping noise up front, we still have to have that addressed. So far, it seems to be doing fine. I'm not feeling any vibration, no service lights, nothing like that. We'll go ahead and keep driving, just let it get up to operating temperature, and then we'll go ahead and give it a little bit of goosing on it and see what it does. Alrighty, she is up to operating temperature. We just came up to a stop sign, and we are going to go ahead and turn and give it a little bit of gas and see what happens, because like I said, it would fall on its face. Okay, so I did pretty good there. We'll get up here to another straightaway and we'll try it. So one of the things, since we've had this, from a dead stop or even cruising at like 35 and you go to floor it, it always seemed to hesitate a little bit and it was kind of jerky, but there was never any check engine lights or anything like that. I just figured it's probably one of those new electronic fancy stuff, like that's just how it is. But then we was coming back from pick and pull with the headlight switch for the Dodge, and that's when I noticed it, and I wasn't able to get any footage of it just because of traffic. It was just crazy when it happened. So like I said, it was kind of, one of those things, and then after that you floor it and it just wouldn't go anywhere. It would just dead stop. So we're getting ready to come up here to a turn, and we're going to go ahead and, from a dead stop, we're going to go ahead and floor it and see what happens. Make sure everything's good. It's up to operating temperature. Okay, so here we go. Now that's the way it should be. There was no jerky, there was no hesitation, nothing. That thing just took right off. That is the way it's supposed to be. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we have got it fixed. We've got new spark plugs, fresh tune-up, fresh air filter, and a new PCV valve, along with the tubing or the hose. So let's go ahead and head back to the house and we'll wrap this video up. Alrighty guys, we're back home. That's gonna do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's anything that I missed during the video, or if there was any parts that were kind of unclear, be sure to leave a comment below. I'd be more than happy to answer that for you. I know the video was kind of choppy a little bit. It's kind of hard doing it by yourself and having to take everything apart, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I really do. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, obviously leave them below. And I will leave a link in the description for all the products that I used, all the tools, where you can get them, the spark plugs, all that good stuff. I will leave it in the description below. And that's going to do us for this one, guys. Until next time, bye-bye.